Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's Sippin' Chat. It's Sippin' Chat Friday, and you can see it is Daryl and I rocking it out to start us out. How you doing, Daryl?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I guess the current event is where you at. You sound like you look like you having some fun.
It probably won't get loud because I hear it already starting. So we'll do what we can.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. How was your week?
Hey, the week was pretty good. We got off for Juneteenth, which is cool. We good. We good.
Cool. Alrighty, so this is funny. This is real funny. Yes, that's a nice pool. You getting in the pool?
I might.
Okay. All right.
And the phone is waterproof, so you'll see everything.
Oh wow. You got fancy stuff going on.
Yeah. Showing that to Tremaine? No. That's it. This is the show now. Yeah, I got
See, he wanna come to the show.
That,
You always making new friends when you out and about.
Got to.
So, any current events you want to talk about other than Juneteenth?
Nah, I don't. Nah, I really wasn't much this week. I really, paying attention to. Look at Cam.
Right, Campton stepped into the building.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good, good, good. We was trying to see we got any current events. I see you got the kids with you.
Yes, I'm good. They knocked out the.
Okay, so we see the Sippin' Chat is on the move this week. Y'all both got y'all outside backgrounds going on.
Yeah, it is what it is today.
I get it. I get it. Any current events that you want to share or pop in about?
This whole Juneteenth is a holiday. It's great and all, but what about the anti-hating bill we need against blacks, not just Asians? What about our 40 acres in a mill? What does that equal to in today's world in terms of money? Like I got
Correct.
acreage, but that ain't enough. Where's our 40 acres in a mill? Like where are the real rights for black people, black and brown people, versus Juneteenth holiday? That's just allow everybody else to get an extra day off. Oh, we have Monday off now, Friday and Monday.
Right. And they're not really connected to understand. They'll just accept the extra day off, but they're not really connected to like be saying, okay, what's going on?
And then people are like, oh, I got Juneteenth off, but do you know the background of Juneteenth? Have you ever celebrated before? Did you get the history up on it?
And then I think some of the questions that people have is since we as a federal holiday, we have Juneteenth. Do we now also have do we also now still do July 4th, or do we still acknowledge and do something on July 4th?
I guess, well, I would say personally, my childhood was different because I'm from Texas and I grew up celebrating June 4th since I was born. I mean, June 10th, I'm sorry. So we always did June 10th and July 4th growing up, but June 10th was always more important to my family.
Right.
Because when people used to be like, oh, Emancipation Proclamation, slavery was over 1863, I used to be like, no, boo, 1865, no, your history. The Emancipation Proclamation, it didn't free everybody. It only freed slaves in certain states.
Right.
So I find it ironic how Texas is getting rid of this, the race theory or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking it out of schools. But I actually I don't know, it's weird, but I went to school in Dallas Independent School District, the ISD, and they actually taught us our history growing up. Not just slavery, beyond that. But we actually learned about all of this. So I find it ironic how they're taking it out of schools now, but it was okay to teach it to us growing up. In Texas specifically. So
right.
I just think it's how on one end you want to give us Juneteenth as a federal holiday, but on the other end you still shooting us and beating us down.
Right. Right. It's like they skipped
I
over so
mean,
many other things and kind of rushed to give us this to kind of say shut up and listen, and then but they're not really doing the other steps, I guess, that's important. So it's like, are we supposed to be thankful and ignore, or are we supposed to be thankful and keep moving towards the things that is important to us?
personally, exactly, that's not her question, but I would say I'm thankful that more people are aware of Juneteenth,
Mm-hmm.
and just not 1863. It's really 1865. So I'm thankful for that piece. But when I look around, the ironing board, Memorial Day, Juneteenth, just certain things we created. It comes from us. So I think if you're gonna celebrate us, celebrate all of us. Everything
Mm-hmm.
from us, just not a piece, just not our
Did it come from us?
What'd you say, Daryl?
You said it came from us?
It's celebrated because of us.
Whatever. Find out. It might have it.
Like she's saying, all the other holidays is celebrated because of us.
Right, not everything came from us, but in terms of certain things. But like, I don't know personally how I feel. Like a pickaninny, like you still picking at us. Just like we have Juneteenth as our federal holiday, you still hanging Negroes and niggas from trees and sitting there with your picnic basket and still nitpicking and being like, oh, we can take this, we can do this to them, we can do this, and they won't do nothing about it. So it's
Right.
like it's still a slap in the face. So when you pick a Juneteenth as a federal holiday, you still picking a nigga. So people may not agree with me, but that's just how I personally feel. That's how I think about it. That's how I equate that to. It's like you take us what we had, you repackage it and spit it back out to us, and we're like, oh, we have 2 more days off. Oh my word, that's just so great.
And it's
we
interesting.
Have a vice president, and she's a woman, and everything else.
See, you done mentioned the wrong thing, but I'm going to stay focused. But it's like, do we really have the things that we need in order to be self-sufficient? Like, there's still oppression with financial applications or financial growth and being eligible to buy certain things, like do certain things, move about in the country different ways. Like, there's still immediate oppression when you walk into a certain place based on the color of your skin.
Oh, I totally agree with that. And I also feel like there's still
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you kind of went out for a minute.
I also think there's still oppression amongst ourselves. You go to the next group. To learn the information we need to learn as Black people.
Oh yeah, I got
I feel like it comes from every direction. Oppression in different forms. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely, it does come in a lot of directions. I think that's the part that people don't realize, how many ways that oppression really intersects in our life overall and in general. So it's like, when things are presented to us, then we put these words to it, like saying you gaslighting or you manipulating, or you need to go, like we may coach it or couch it with something else versus really addressing what the elephant in the room really means, because we don't feel comfortable with that, or we feel like we're going to lose something by doing it.
What about critical race theory? They talking about, taking it out of schools and things of that nature, when it's not even really taught K through 12. So it's very interesting that they're really trying now to jump on that. So they don't want us to know our history, the history here.
So I think that's the thing that was my first thought this morning yesterday when they were talking about how it was signed and approved and all of that, is regards to the critical race theory in schools. I just really feel like they just need to really take a real accountable look, especially after what we experienced in 2020, and have real authentic conversations in regards to what our history truly is. But because they look at it as it's separate from how the United States actually functions, that they don't really want to take responsibility from the fact that America is racist and America has these different things that create a disparity between classes. And most of the time, the classes that are receiving the most challenges are those of brown and black people.
Well, a lot of times they say, "Well, I'm not racist because I didn't do their fathers, my grandparents, my parents. So what does
Right.
that have to do with me now? I'm for equal rights.
Well, I think that that's
I'm for
where
equal rights of all people. I'm not racist.
I think that's where the real conversation comes, is really kind of peeling back the layers like we were just mentioning, or at least my view of how we were mentioning oppression. We really got to pull back the layers in regards to what racism looks like and how it's experienced before we go saying to take CRT out of the curriculum, because I think that it gets distracted with all these other narratives of what's happening, and that people are unable to really see what the reality of what the benefit of a CRT being added into, or I should not say a CRT, the CRT conversation is being added to the education of all children.
Well, but like I said, it's
Well,
weird
with
because
them taking this,
it's not even
oh, go ahead, girl.
it's not even usually based pretty much in K through 12 for once. But I think
Correct.
what happened was they saw what happened this past year, and when people start educating themselves on things, knowledge is power. They're trying to strip that knowledge away. They don't want us to know anything, and they're trying to make it everything's fine. Everything's
Right.
kumbaya,
Right.
And I think the problem is people get triggered when they talk about it because they internalize it. So it's not every white person that we're talking about. We're talking about systems. We're talking about the way this thing is set up, right? But people take offense to it like they're talking about them. And
Right.
we are talking about some of them, right? We are talking about some people. But for the most part, we're talking about systems and even the unconscious bias that we may have that is based around what is taught, what we learn, and how we act.
Correct.
That's what it really is. And they don't understand it. They're like, oh, they just don't want that taught because they're like, oh, it teaches racism. Well, it teaches what really happened, and you can now formulate come to your own conclusion about how you feel about certain things because of what happened. But it's weird because they're not trying to erase, like if we're talking about a Jewish person, not erase the Holocaust. We're not talking about that anymore. They're not talking about anything like that. And it's crazy because they still want to teach about Abraham Lincoln or all these other people, but they want to Thomas Jefferson, but they want to talk about it so-called they think they did good. They don't want to tell the whole story. They want to show one side of the coin.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that to me is the problem with this, because you're only speaking from a positive aspect to make you feel better about the situation. Right? And that's the problem I have with this.
Absolutely. And it's like the for all cultures and all ethnicities, nothing is definitely all positive. So it's like, let's just be transparent and say, okay, these are the things that happen in our history, and some of them are good, some of them are not good. Like I think, even like when people had concerns about certain monuments being eliminated and removed, hey Ruth, with certain monuments and so forth being removed, it was like, not so much, some of them may be okay, yes, we need to absolutely remove them, but then some of them, can we just change the narrative in regards to how it is that we talk about them and put the truth on it? Like, Columbus didn't discover nothing. He came upon a whole bunch of people, and then some of his friends came upon some people and they stole, robbed, and then murdered the people after they got what they needed. Like let's just be truthful. If there is a hint of something that they did well, then yes, let that be a part of history. But why do we have to just kind of either, like, it's the cancel culture. Okay, we erase it, then you'll forget it. No, we still had that experience, and it's still a trauma reaction to it. Yes, I don't agree with it being removed. And I think so far it's been removed from Florida, Texas. A couple other places have voted on it being removed. I don't agree with it not being taught. I
Well,
don't think
again,
that it should be done in isolation. I think it should be inclusive learning.
they made themselves the victims, and they said that this is teaching hatred for them. It's making them feel guilty. So since it's making us feel guilty, and it's a problem for us, we want to now remove it because we don't want to feel
Right.
guilty about what happened. We don't want to have
Right.
any. We don't. That's not us. We want to remove ourselves from that.
Right.
But you guys can't vote.
How about that?
You know what
Or
I'm
we're
saying?
going to change the hours of voting because we know that you work in blue collar and civil service work and that you can't get off in time in order to get to the polls. So then that'll help us in the voting situation.
Absolutely. So it's crazy. It's very interesting. But again, it's weird how even in them doing that, they're showing how they control things. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We remove this because it's a bothersome to us.
Right.
To them, it's a bothersome to them. We remove it.
Right.
We had more. When we try to remove statues, they gave more kickback to removing the statue than than, than this history thing. They got it done like this. You
Right.
know, there was no since they have the numbers, they have the power. They just bulldoze and go right through. This is spreading like wildfire. It's crazy.
Right. And it's really like, if we want to use the term that they keep throwing out there and making it so casual now, it's really gaslighting at its best because they want to tell us that what our experience was is not reality. Like they want to tell us that what we saying is the truth doesn't matter to us at all.
No, I think they're telling us it does matter, and we don't want you to know the truth.
Right.
We don't want you to be educated.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what I think.
He looked like he was trying to serve you up a plate. As you can see, Daryl is out on the move. Camp is out on the move. It's a Friday night. The world is starting to open up again, but we still checking in on our relationship flow, sip and chat, and coming to you with some current events right now, talking about should CRT be in the conversations and curriculum of our education system. That's what I'm gonna say. Our education system, or should it be continue to be invisible to the culture altogether?
I think it should all be together because Black history is American history.
Correct.
And this country has been off on our backs for 400 years, so I don't know why it just can't be all taught together.
Right.
Black history is American history too, so that's the way I look at it. Why does it have to be separate? Like you mentioned, all inclusive. Everything needs to be taught.
But I still think
it's all about who wins the war. Whoever wins the war, they write the history.
Well, also we got to remember it's specialized, right? So I think that we can touch on a lot of things, but I definitely think there should be a separate that really goes deep into it because history is a lot of information that is out there, a lot of stuff they can talk about, and they already talk about us in history, and they leave it at slavery. They leave it at we come over here on these boats, then we got freed and segregation. That's all they talk about because I don't know how much time they want to put into that, right? So I don't know. I think that it still has to be a separate so you really can dive a little deeper into it, right? So we don't have to keep going over those same points that we learned from kindergarten through 12th grade. We were taught the same thing every year.
Yeah, the same
really
three people.
Yes, it really was.
That's actually what pushed me to go into, of course, I didn't have the wording of critical race theory at that particular time, but I definitely was in my educational journey wanting to learn more than Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks. Like I was like, I know that in our history it has to be more. And from moving from the Midwest to the East Coast and finishing up my education, I was like, okay, where is it can I learn a different experience, especially for the first college that I went to visit to. They basically made it very, very clear that they would only be admitting me. Yes, I was already qualified to be admitted, but they were only going to admit myself and my girlfriend because we would help them meet their minority quota, but they weren't going to support us in making sure that we got through to the 4-year degree. Whereas when I went to HBCUs, it was a totally different experience. Like, it's, for one, it was alumni giving us the tour and they were so proud, and it was just like, okay, maybe this is where, maybe this is my home, maybe this is where I can develop, and get more than just those 3 people in my history. Because I got more 3 people just in the tour on the campus that had attended that particular institution.
And I also think what helps me growing up, because, like, for example, I was raised by my mom's side of the family. We know our family tree back to the 1600s. Like, in terms of the plantation, the old church, the new church, which was built like in the late 70s, and the new cemetery, and just knowing where our roots are from, I think that helped cultivate my character and who I am now, because I bask in it. Like, I see your experience in terms of the, like you said, about going to the tour for HBCU versus PWI. Sorry.
Right.
I had a blank. Okay, I went to PWI. I did go to HBCU for like a summer, and it was the best. I felt like my high school was HBCU, but anyway.
Oh, okay.
Because it was 99.999% black. We had the band, everything that goes along with HBCU, and we had mentors from TSU, Parrview, Alcorn State, Jackson State, people coming, supporting to us like every week. Like,
right.
So they were leading us on that path. But I will say that somewhat of knowing your history gives you like a better footing or foundation to know history outside of your own. Like, still black history, but more so of how your family has contributed to society, whether it was local, state, national, globally. Like, so I think that's important as well.
Right. I think it's interesting that Ruth said that she's an educator, she shared that before in previous conversations, that they thought that Dr. King and Rosa Parks at the school that she was at was married because the way they pushed it so much. And I could get that.
That is hilarious.
That's hilarious. But when you think about when you're teaching children context clues and paying attention to similarities and whose name comes up together, they got the idea of matching stories and parts of conversations together. They got the idea that what they were fighting for was similar, so they must be married.
Well, like that, if you're being taught it's like segmented, but both of their names coming up. I mean, if that's what you get or understand from it, that's what's gonna happen. So,
correct.
That's hilarious, but I can see how that could happen.
I can see how it can happen too. It's so hilarious though. Like, it's so hilarious.
I've never heard of that, but that is so. I am cracking up. That is hilarious.
I think I'm gonna have to use that somewhere. Like,
you are.
So, Doc, how you doing?
Hey guys, I'm good.
Hey Doc.
Hey, I'm good.
You see, we on the move this week, right?
I see. Yes. I see.
We talking about. Yes.
Hey,
and so we were just basically going through, current events, and I guess we one of the things we talked about was Juneteenth, and should we be celebrating, excited, that we now have that on the calendar when all these other things have not been acknowledged or in purpose to support us. And so then that's how we got into deep with the CRT.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got anything you want to share to that?
I don't.
We can't hear you, Daryl.
We can't hear you, Daryl.
Sorry, I was on mute.
And I didn't put him on mute, Paul.
Huh?
How you not gonna have nothing, Doc?
Yeah, I don't have anything to say about that. I mean,
okay.
we've been going to Juneteenth celebrations since my daughter, who's now 30, was about 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of been there.
Yeah,
And
but
then
now it's cool.
she went to an Afrocentric middle school. So of course, all those things were enforced there as well. So yeah, I mean,
I think that
I
changes
really
it
don't know
too.
how I feel about it yet.
It's
And
really
I think
trendy
that
right now.
changes it too, because I can really tell you that coming from, if I go from my origin being from the Midwest, right? And then coming to the East Coast. All right, Daryl, we can't hear. Coming from the Midwest and then coming to the East Coast, there were some things that I was aware of that was differences as far as in culture, and it being more cultures. Me thinking when people were one ethnic group and then they opened their mouth and they had this different dialect tongue.
Mm-hmm.
I never heard of Juneteenth. I never heard of Odunda Day. I never heard of a lot of things that, in me living in Philadelphia 191 zip code, is a part of our rich culture. They were never, even in my experience at the HBCU, I can't recall a conversation around Juneteenth.
Because I
So,
think it was always a Texas holiday and not a national holiday. I think that's part of it. Because
okay,
we always celebrated it statewide. It was a statewide holiday.
okay,
That's part of it.
right. But I think it still shows the differences of I don't know if class is the right word, but difference of zip codes as far as what you're exposed to, that would even help in adding the CRT into the curriculums, because it would actually probably be inclusive of adding how someone from the Midwest is different from someone from the South, and someone from the West Coast is different from the East Coast, and what they're exposed to, and they're touched to these very important conversations. They may have similar reactions and responses, but how they live through different experiences or how they celebrate different moments is different because of how it landed for them.
And you have me pointing based on something. I remember when I started teaching at a African Center school, and when people walked into my classroom, I was celebrating Spanish Heritage Month along with Black History Month, and they were like, "Why are you celebrating?" I said, "It's a part of my culture." But you're Black. Yes, this is what I grew up on. It's a part of my culture. Being born and raised in Texas, that used to be Mexico territory, along with next door the Louisiana Purchase and all
Right.
Louisiana territory. So people don't really think about that, and all the way up to the Midwest, Chicago, it included all of it. I just think the students would ask questions, and I was like, well, let me teach you about Esteban. They were like, Esteban. I said, yes. He was one of the black, he was a shaman, a healer. And he eventually got killed, but he was the one who helped the conquistadors and people who came over from other countries, South America, into Mexico. He helped them survive. People who came into the New World, he was Black. He helped them survive.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think when you, and people thought it was crazy, but then they started researching and they was like, oh, we found this, we found that. So I think just by me even being married and I started barbecuing, and my husband being like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, it's Juneteenth. He's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Over 15 years ago.
Right.
He was like, you barbecuing in the summer? Yes. We barbecue, we do fireworks. I was like, I'm celebrating the Black Independence Day, the real, independence.
Right.
So I think just from bringing that kind of piece of culture into our household, it was different. And
right.
And my family up north was like, what is she doing? They were like, what are you doing? We don't know nothing about this. So I think it's all, you were right in terms of exposure. And just really, and a lot of our traditions and stories are oral versus written down. That has a lot to do with it as well.
Right. 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 Facts. Definite facts. So yeah, I think that's what makes it important, in regards to just knowing, all the different ways in which it can touch our communities. But then even some people feel as though I've arrived in my profession, and do I need to reach back to that part of my culture because it wasn't what I experienced, or I don't agree with that part of my life, so I'm just going to try to erase that as if it's no longer a part of them, which is another conversation probably. But
Definitely.
yeah. Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. Daryl is having a whole good time wherever he is.
A whole good time.
A whole good time. So, anything else on critical race theory or any of the current events that we want to talk about?
No more current events, and let's get to our topic so they don't take a whole time talking about current events again.
That ain't what we did the last time. We just went on a whole detour the last time.
What they call it?
The potluck.
Yeah, no potluck. Let's
No
get to this
potluck.
topic.
No, I said that in the post. We
I
wasn't
thought we
having
was
no
gonna stay on
potluck.
topic today, and no, we have no potluck.
No, you said what?
I thought y'all agreed we was gonna stay on topic today.
Yeah, we are. I just was making sure that we was ready to go there.
Okay.
Daryl, Ruth said, "Are you paying attention?" Look, Ruth, I guess not. Are you paying attention?
No.
So tonight,
I got one ear in the room, and one ear to the table. It's hard. I'm trying.
I hope your ADHD works that way.
Kinda. This is called dedication. I'm here. Dedication.
And we appreciate you for sure. Trust and believe we do.
I appreciate you guys,
man. Oh goodness, the stories we gonna tell. He got his hair fresh and everything.
Fresh to death.
Yeah, fresh to death. Oh goodness, look, that's all we had to say. So the conversation scheduled for this evening is: are you being disrespected or are you tripping? And it's like, do you really know the difference? Like certain situations kind of happen or people say stuff and you might take it a certain way, but is it intended the way that you take it? Are you, stretching the truth a little bit? How do you feel? Are you how would you differentiate being disrespected or are you tripping? Who wants to go? Who wants to start?
I don't know, like differentiate it. The way I look at it, if somebody says something and it's like hurtful or they say it all crazy, but if it's true, it's true. So a lot of times people be tripping off of how it's said, not what was said. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but if somebody says it off, you can be tripping off of it. So somebody can say something that's true, but it can still be disrespectful based on how they said it, not what they said. That's how I look at it.
Now, I think everything she says. Well, she can feel any way she wants. We're all entitled to feel how we want to feel, right? And it doesn't mean you're wrong. How you feel is how you feel, but you may not agree with it, right? So you can feel disrespected, and the other person might not feel disrespect. That's just what it is. You might have to work it out, but I can't always maybe convince the other person that I didn't disrespect them if they felt disrespected, right? So we also have to understand that that person in the space they're in, we have to respect that too, right? Even if we don't agree, we can still just understand that they still may feel disrespected, even if you explain it however you explain it, and then you guys got to figure out what you're going to do from that point, how you're going to move going forward.
Doc, are you talking to us? And you're not on mute, so I'm not sure why we don't hear you. I was gonna say we just
Well,
heard you, so she gotta go out and come
uh,
back in.
well,
Yeah.
I used to have this thing about if I said something or did something, I probably meant to say it and I probably meant to do it, but I don't apologize for saying what I'm saying, but if you felt disrespected or offended, I apologize for that, but not for what I
Mhm.
said, because what I said was probably correct.
Mhm.
But if you're offended, I'm sorry I offended you. That was not my intention. See, my intention is to be honest. My intention is not to offend you.
But what if people?
Go ahead.
What if people can't recognize your intentions and they feel like they're not tripping, that you just totally just outright disrespected me all the way?
Okay, so that means the conversation needs to be had. But however, I can't change how people feel or think. So unless somebody came to me, I wouldn't know. You know what I'm saying? If that's not my intention, but it came out a certain type of way, unless they came to me or somebody else was like, "Yo, you could have said that better, or it could have been different," then
It's very tough. Yeah, yeah. It's a very tough thin line. Because like I said, we use the one with the curfew we use.
So I think
Right.
I can't change how anybody feels. So even if I had a conversation with somebody and they're like, I'm like, I apologize, that's not what I meant. If they still after the conversation, if they still feel a certain type of way, they're gonna feel that. You know what I'm saying? So I
So
don't
the
know.
message can be disrespectful
It's all
and the
about
delivery can be disrespectful.
Correct.
Or the
right.
message could be disrespectful but the delivery isn't. Or vice
Well,
versa.
no. Wait, no, wait. So the message could be viewed as being disrespectful, right? Just because someone views it that way
Right,
doesn't
right,
mean
right. You didn't let me
so.
finish. Because
Oh,
there are
okay.
some, I would think that, one, you know what, there, no, you're right. Because I was going to say, there some universal or agreed upon things that are disrespectful?
I don't. Every relationship
Like
is very
if
different.
somebody spit in your face.
That
That's
to me
disrespectful.
is ultimate disrespect.
That's
That is
disrespectful.
ultimate. That that may be some furniture moving, right? That's
Right.
crazy. That's but everybody handles things differently, right? Because your background, how you grew up, what you see, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Everybody's not going to be this loving hip hop responding to things,
Right,
right?
right.
And remember, I think a lot of them think that that's okay to act that way. They don't find that to
Mm.
be disrespectful when they're talking to each other that way, all crazy. That's a normal argument. That's a normal level they get to, throwing drinks, cussing each other out. That may look very, to me, it looks crazy on the outside, but to them, that's how they do it because they
Mhm.
do that, and the next day they're back. Everything is, kumbaya again.
What?
Oh, what's happening?
Right? What in the world?
That was disrespectful. See, that was
Yes,
disrespectful.
that was
Okay.
disrespectful. And I don't,
Just
I don't
jumping
think,
into a conversation that
right.
he
I
don't
don't
know.
think we're tripping. I don't think we're tripping.
Right.
No, we weren't tripping. So, but
It
that's the
always
thing.
take Daryl's background of his parties for somebody to jump
That's
in with
probably
some
the same
special.
guy from the last party.
Right.
It
Jumping
is.
in.
See, I knew
Is
it.
it?
I knew it.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
Mm-mm-mm.
But that's what makes it tricky too, because like I said, disrespect is different. So I think we have to find out what disrespect is, right? I think we got to define that in each relationship. You know what I mean? Because like I said, what you may feel disrespectful, I may not feel that. I may
What in
not
the
feel that's
world
disrespectful.
is going on over there?
What in the world?
The drinks are flowing, okay? They're flowing.
Mm-mm-mm.
So, so what? So what I'm saying is that I think you need to have a discussion about what you find disrespectful, or when it comes up, that's kind of disrespectful to me. And hopefully the other person can kind of, even if they don't agree, but understand that's disrespectful to you, and try to work in those margins. You know what I mean? But there's some things, like I said, we kind of talked about the curfew, where if you come home 3 o'clock, some people find that disrespectful. I don't necessarily think that's disrespectful. I don't know how to navigate. I don't know how to navigate that because I'm not going to come home earlier just because you feel like I need a curfew as a grown person, right? Coming in my home, I don't. I can have a time to come in my home as long as as long as you can reach me, as long as you can contact me anytime while I'm out,
Mhm.
then there should not be a problem.
Mhm.
That's how I feel. Someone may feel totally different, and we would have to find a common ground kind of to alleviate that. I don't know how,
Mhm.
but we'd have to find something.
So I
What happens when you have that conversation and it continues? So it might not have, your partner might have thought it wasn't disrespectful, but if I tell you it feels disrespectful and you continue to do it, I think it does become disrespectful.
No, I don't think so because how. But I have feelings too. So you're saying your feelings supersede what I feel. That's not okay either. Just because you feel some way about that action, and I don't feel the same, right? Especially if I'm not doing anything wrong, and if I'm having fun,
See, when we
and I don't
talk
feel
about,
anything wrong with that.
if you're not doing anything wrong, defined by you.
Exactly.
Like
So
if you
that's why I
spit
got
in my
to.
face and I say, I don't like that, that's really disrespectful to me. And then next time we argue, you spit in my face again. Like, hey, that you are crossing the line.
So that situation, yes. Well, in all situations, but you got to define that for you, right? You got to figure out what you're going to do. 'Cause I'm like, listen, I don't think it's disrespectful. I'm gonna go out. I'm having fun. If you find it disrespectful, if it bothers you that much, make a decision, right?
Mhm.
Because now it's on you. It's not on me anymore. I already told you, like, I'm going to do this, but I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. I'm a grown man. I can go out, have fun. I'll be home, right? I'm not doing it every week or whatever the case may be. But if we can't agree and we can't agree to disagree, then you got to do what you got to do. If you got to spread your wings and fly away, cool. You know what I mean? But you got to figure out at that point, like I said, at that point, if I feel this disrespect, it's on me to figure out what I'm going to do, what I'm going to accept, what I'm going to allow to happen.
Mhm.
so the one
At
thing
that point, you
that
just change the locks.
see, y'all done jumped all the way to changing the locks.
Well,
I
you can't
I
change
think
the
though with
locks. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. I said you can't really change the locks in a house that we share because you feel some type of way. Again, that's being very one-sided and selfish.
I'm just
That's the
playing with
problem.
you.
I'm not playing. Don't change the lock. No, I'm kidding.
I think getting to the point of like talking about if it's a curfew and disrespect is kind of two different things. I think that it depends on what time you're coming in and from what activity and how it's also impacting the relationship in the house is when it becomes, is it disrespectful conversation or not? Not so much that I was supposed to see your face, Daryl. I
But
think
when
that
Cause none of that. I
so
don't
are
think
you
that
saying the
matters. What I'm
curfew
doing as a grown man.
and being
I'm
respectful
a
goes
grown.
hand in hand?
well, see, it
No,
kind
she said what
of
you're
wait, can't
doing. Man,
so no, I really just think like the conversation about the curfew comes from something else, and it kind of goes into
Okay.
like how you take it. You saying you being disrespected, and the person is like, okay, am I tripping? But like the conversation of curfew, what is it that you're doing that you're coming in at these later hours, and how is the family, us as a couple, the house, the finances, everything being impacted by these extracurricular activities? That's when it becomes am I tripping for even thinking that I can have this conversation with you that turns in how you react to it if it's going to be disrespectful or not? Because if you say I'm a grown man, I could do what I want, I work on my money, then you automatically take in defense versus saying, okay, I'm triggered by the word curfew. And if I'm triggered by the word curfew, then I need to figure out, okay, I'm already defensive and reactive and go argue with you because I don't like the fact that you use the word curfew. Now, can we talk about the fact I'm coming in late a different way? Because yeah, but no, we don't look at the whole picture. We just look at the immediate thing when we got rubbed the wrong way.
this is crazy. This is very one-sided because I remember before people
Even
talking
with the
about
music in the
asking.
background.
Yeah, let's get it. People talking about asking permission, um,
And do
asking
they own
permission to
you?
go places. Yeah, and own you. But now we're talking about I gotta talk. Someone gotta uh, talk about when they come in and how they come in. Doesn't make sense. We got to have it one way or the other. Either we can live the way we live and do what we do, as long as I don't know how going out could affect the finances or the family or anything like that, right? Because if you're going out getting your nails done or you're going out shopping during regular hours, it could affect the household. So that's a conversation. But if someone's going out, the time they come in should not be a reason to have an argument. It
And
shouldn't
this
be.
is why you ain't never been merged.
I'm sorry. I'm
I
just
don't
laughing.
because as grown, I don't think that no one should have uh, tabs on someone, right? You shouldn't have to check in. I mean, you should be able to check in, but I shouldn't have to say, "Well, I got to come in at 2 o'clock because she told better." At 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, you should be asleep or doing whatever you're doing. The kids asleep. It is not affecting anybody. Everybody cleaning at no 2 o'clock. Ain't nothing going on. So if I'm out, there's no reason except for you having an issue about it to make me come in. That's a problem.
Are
Hmm.
you going out every night or are you going out every Friday night? Is it like a every
No,
single thing?
so then that's what I
Well, what
said
if you
too.
went
It
out
wouldn't be
every
something
night?
that's so again, I don't think it would be something like on a regular basis, right? Because I got to spend time at home with my wife. She want to maybe cuddle at night, and it's probably on the weekends, when time. So I don't think it should be an every night thing, right? But that's just more about just spending quality time with each other. Nothing should be every night. You know what I mean? She shouldn't go to sleep early every night, unless you know what I mean. It's nothing to be every night, but nothing. So I don't think it should be. But if I want to go out, you know, again, every now and then, and stay out all night, there should be no problem with it. Okay, that's how I feel. Women. This conversation is crazy. This is crazy in the background. I don't know. They talk about sex every night.
Now that's tripping.
You could have, again. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to have it every
Right.
night. You can do it in the morning when I get back. It can
Ask them
happen.
about the shower.
What about the shower?
Not that conversation again.
Oh,
Oh
so
God.
listen. No,
I mean,
listen.
they want
So
to be
this
included.
here go. This is the
Oh,
question.
that
This is the
would be
question.
conversation.
So
That would be see
so
how what they
every
say.
before you have sex, every time before you have sex, you need to take a shower. Hell no.
Of course, he would say that.
No. Listen. So the woman talking about listen. But I don't want you. I'm listen. They like the sweat now. They like the from okay. The sweat from the gym. They
They
like
like salty balls.
salty balls. Listen, sometimes you get salty balls, right? Listen, don't lie. If anybody say you never had some salty balls, you're lying, right? So we're talking about salty balls. Don't act like nobody ain't never had them.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-mm-mm.
So he sat her. She wouldn't lick his ass. She had salty ass. Oh, that's a new one. He had salty ass. So his balls it was his ass that was salty. And they both came from Chile on a city line. So he said she knew. Woo!
So,
All
Y'all can
right.
take the tape off.
Yes, Doc, please bring us back in.
yeah, I was gonna ask again.
Please.
Are there any issues that are universally disrespectful? Or is it all individualized?
Can you
Everything
say
has
it
to be
again, Doc? I
individualized.
couldn't hear with the background going on.
You see Ronnie's response to you, what you had to say, Daryl, right? She like, what the what? You and your people over there.
Everybody, all women have had salty balls at one point in time. Stop it. We're not all. They may be like, not anybody on this panel. I know, not you guys, not you. But everybody.
Let's go back to Doc's question. Doc, you say your question again. What's your question?
I said, are there any areas or issues or things that are universally disrespectful, or is it all individualized?
I would go with it's all individualized. I can't see anything being universal, right? Because contingent upon how we were raised and what we feel is right or wrong is very different. And we know that sometimes in a relationship and people are doing things that are totally outside of what we feel is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mhm.
what are you talking about? That's not normal. And it may
Right.
be normal to them. And I think that's when you got to start approaching these relationships as total new entities for each relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to explore it like that and try to find out this new thing instead of kind of attributing to whatever we know and putting that on the new relationship.
Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, is there ever a time when you're actually tripping? Because
Hey,
if you're
Chris.
saying you might not really be being disrespected,
I didn't say that.
are you ever tripping?
I didn't say that because I think, like I said, disrespect too is the same thing. It's universal. It's individually based because you
Mm.
can feel it's disrespect. Like I said with the curfew thing, so women, somebody feel like somebody coming in at 3 o'clock is disrespectful. To me, I don't find that to be disrespectful at all. Right? I just don't. Now, I think there could be parameters around things. So if we talk about every night or every
Mm.
weekend or every free time, every time you have something free, you're going out and you're not taking your partner,
But
then I
in
could
that,
say,
but I'm saying what I'm saying is in that issue, when would the other
It's good
person
to
be
see you too, Mr. Cole. It's good to see
Hey,
you.
when would the other person be tripping?
well,
Or
I think you're tripping once you say, look, this is disrespectful to me. Another person saying, listen, I don't think it's disrespectful. I'm going to go out. I'm not doing anything wrong. I like having some fun sometimes.
Mhm.
If you keep it going, what I'm telling you, how I feel about it as well, now you're tripping.
okay.
Because either you're going to I'm saying like I'm not really going to change because I don't feel like this is something wrong, right? I don't feel like
Mm,
it, and I'm putting a stance, putting my stick in the ground, like I'm not changing.
mm,
If you keep complaining about it, you're tripping
mm,
because you have to make a decision about what you're going to do to make you feel better. Like you're not going to
mm,
keep, and you're not going to continue to harass me about it either. But at that point, now I'm gonna make a decision. Like I told you, I'm not changing. We're not gonna keep having this conversation.
mm. Okay.
But I think that that's where it is that people define respect and disrespect in so many different ways that because it lives, it has different lives, it shows up differently in different relationships. Like you really have to have those conversations of what that is for you as a couple, as a family,
Mhm,
and be able to, okay, as new stuff comes up, being okay with having that conversation. Otherwise, if you kind of be to go along and get along with it as it's happening, then yeah, you're gonna second guess yourself and be like, okay, I must be tripping because I know they didn't just say, do, think, feel,
mhm,
whatever it is. It be the curfew, how they spent money, asking me to do certain things around the house or in the relationship, in
mhm,
intimacy, whatever. Like it's all in how you present it.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Mm.
What is he walking away from his people?
No,
Oh
we're talking
no.
about should you get married or not? Do you have to get married? Is it a prerequisite? And sorry, wait, that's disrespectful for you to say you don't want to get married. That's disrespectful, and you tripping. You both.
And you might get that response too, like that's
Mhm,
disrespectful. And you
mhm.
tripping saying that everybody gotta get married.
Right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It
And
ain't for
marriage is not for
everybody.
everybody.
Not at all. Not at all.
Mm-mm-mm. So it was a couple other things, and I'm sorry, I ran into the room. I don't have the notes from 2 weeks ago, on the different things that we had listed as what could be potentially a disrespectful situation. I know curfew was on there. I think
Mhm,
finances was on there.
mhm.
Um, I don't know what else. What else could be a scenario?
Hmm. I think those are.
How you? No, it could be
Oh,
how you raise your kids as well. If you think yelling at a kid is okay and one doesn't think it's okay, right?
hmm.
I'm like, yo, that's disrespectful to me if I'm telling you to stop doing it. And they'd be like, no, I got to make sure this. I remember one guy was he would kind of be real physical with his son, right? Because he said, I got to raise him to be a man. And the mom's like, you don't have to hit on him to do that, right?
Right.
And it was very different. And she was like, yo, you're disrespecting this family and me because I'm telling you don't do that. And he was like, nah, this is how you raise a boy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And she had eventually she got away from him because she's like, you're not going to keep beating my son up, you know? But it was for a while, you know, he was like, bitch, you're tripping. You're tripping, thinking that it's disrespectful for me to raise this young man because the streets is going to do this, yada, yada, yada to him. She was like, no.
Yeah, parenting can definitely be where the line is drawn over being disrespected or tripping. That is sometimes also informed by your spiritual background or your, you know, like the different spiritual practices that you have as well on, you know, I don't know, some people say spirit of rod or something like that with the child, whatever. I know I didn't chop that all up, but y'all know what I mean.
You know, maybe having you know, one partner feels it's okay to have to have like one of those polyamorous relationships. I want another wife. You know, and I think if I could support another wife, I should be able to have one. Now she probably was
Yeah,
like, you
and some
disrespect.
people might come right off and be like, okay, you tripping.
And, no, you disrespecting me with that.
Right. Or, you know, Camp has said before, you know, she's okay. She got a whole job responsibility for this person to have their polyamorous relationship. Thank you,
hear the
Ruth, for
lies.
helping me out.
We don't want to hear the lies. Okay, Camp
You don't want to hear
lying.
the lies?
No,
Camp
that's a
lying?
lie. Absolutely. Don't. You can talk that talk, but another woman in the house, she's gonna be doing more than folding laundry. Okay.
That's not her job description.
Yeah, it ain't a lot of people's job description, but they end up in that room
See,
folding
here you
something
go
else.
talking about people in the closet again.
Right.
At the work closet.
And if she already in the house, listen, opportunity is how things happen. So she's in the house, oh, you can hang it up. You think she's gonna be in the laundry room if you want. She's gonna be up in the bedroom.
So why would somebody, you started it, Daryl. So why would somebody, hey, Miss Shirley, why would somebody who is asking for a polyamorous relationship, why would that be considered disrespect? Is it only to ask about being married?
No, I think some people, I heard it before, like they're like, how you gonna disrespect me? I'm not like that. I'm not like that. I don't like girls. I wouldn't do that. You know, you disrespect me coming at me like that. I'm saying that's the response that I've heard when we've had this conversation. You feel like they're being disrespected just you asking them that question.
So then how can a question in regards to intimacy not be taken that somebody's being disrespected, especially if they, and not necessarily just polyamorous, I just said that because you mentioned it, but say if you want to do something different, how can you present that and your partner not receive it in the wrong way?
See, that's very difficult because sometimes you ask somebody to do something, they're very upset. Like if you ask a girl to on her face, sometimes it is not a good. They're like, what you talking about? Like they don't like it. That's not a. It's like you don't ask them that. Like you're disrespecting me just to ask me to do that on my face.
Right.
You gotta tell them you want it. Put it there, motherfucker.
Oh my God. I'm so glad you muted him at the time that you did. Oh my goodness.
But like that question would be disrespectful. Some people can find that to be disrespectful to ask that. So it's really, and that's why it's really, that's why it's tough to, that's why it's tough to have those conversations.
And I think that it goes back to, again, we were talking about the foundation of your relationship. Like you have to be able to know, even in the stages, because every relationship has seasons, moments, and lifetime, elements to it. And so you have to know your partner to know, is it the season? Is it the moment, that you can ask certain things? It's not necessarily always a sexual or intimacy, type situation, but what is their triggers. So it's like, if they're going to come back to you from feeling violated or disrespected, you already know that by the way that you have to prepare the conversation.
Yeah. I agree. But still, that first time, you try to ask that something new, and it don't matter how far into it. Sometimes still can be kind of tricky because it's the
Hmm.
first time you're really presenting this to them.
Right, right. And hoping that they maintain having an open mind around just whatever. I mean, because, and like I said, it could be around finances. It could be around how you plan your family vacation. It could be how you're raising children. It could be how you share time with your friends that you had before we were married, or, if you're married or in a committed relationship, because not everybody is married, but in a committed, with someone, how it is that you still honor and respect your covenant of your address, as well as when you're outside of the home.
Right. Right.
And that's, I think, sometimes we compare to stuff like, what's the show you said earlier? I don't know, the Housewives show or whatever. We can't compare our independent lives mirroring to what media says. We have to do our independent lives around what works at our address. And one of the things I'm always working with individuals and couples around is figuring out what is the blueprint that works for you. Not comparing or saying, okay, when I go to my friends, I can make sure I brag and have bragging rights on these things. But outside of needing to show a certain face with your friends, like, cancel that out. What is going to make us whole and what's going to make us happy? Because if we don't do that, then we're going down a rabbit hole of unhappiness.
And the problem is people don't know that, so they grab to these shows and they emulate what they see on TV because they don't know. So they think this is their lane, or that lane becomes their lane through osmosis, through seeing it so much it just seeps into them, and it becomes normal. And we have to really break away from that, and like you said, and find out what works for us. You know.
Mm-hmm. I think it also shows up, though, we mentioned we kind of dance around it, but like with parenting as well, because parenting your children and then realizing that every child in a house doesn't should not necessarily going to be parented the same way, because each person has their individual personality, their characteristics, the things they're interested in. You can probably talk to one person maybe with some solid facts, and other people you have to kind of do bite size to get them to that whole plate that you're serving them up for. But it's like, how do you bring that balance between you and your partner, and knowing that okay, this is what my intention is, and this is where it is that I plan to have these conversations, so that we can raise our children, from a balanced perspective. So Shirley, you said chicken is different. Chicken is definitely different. But how you cook chicken is different. So I think you said children. Okay. You were trying to say children are different. Children are different, and what? Can you be disrespected, and can it be a tripping situation for how you raise them? Or are you saying, yes, how you raise each child is different based on their strengths and areas that you're nurturing? I'm not sure which way you mean that when you say, and I'm assuming that you're saying children are different. And so, we're here talking about, are you being disrespectful, disrespected, or are you tripping? So when certain situations come up in your relationships with others, and it doesn't always have to be a significant other, it could be with your children, it could be with your best friend. How do you determine that the communication is being disrespectful to you, or having you second guess your platform, your thought process around, are you tripping or not? And so it's like you looking at the whole expectation around how it is that you can move forward, but then it's like creating that balanced relationship overall. It's okay, Miss Shirley. We probably all need to go eat. Or I'm surprised you didn't say you need to go to sleep. But yeah, I knew what you meant, but then I was like, okay, well, chicken is different, and I was going to go with you and ride with you on that one and saying how you cook chicken is different, but does your partner even like the way that you cook the chicken? So that's how I was going to go at first. And I realized that you were talking about the children. So basically, what we were intending for this conversation to unfold was, sometimes you may think that somebody is disrespecting you, but they may be coming from a different perspective or a different understanding, and their intentions is not to disrespect you. However, they don't know that they did until you let them know. And hopefully you could let them know from a non-argumentative, non-hurtful place, so that you could kind of figure out how you can work and do things differently or better. And doing that, like it builds up that communication that will make your relationship be more sustainable and loving and nurturing. So I don't know if there's anything else that we wanted to say with this, because as you see, the world is opening up and our, panel guests are not present. Doc is tending to something else, so I'm not sure. Where else would you like to take this conversation? Or if there's any questions that you wanted to to kind of pose to or add to the, are you being disrespected or are you tripping? I know there's a delay on responding. And Ronnie, thank you for sharing the video. All right, so I guess what we will do is this will be a brief showing for this evening, and we do thank you for tuning in on a Friday night sip and chat. Just thinking about how it is that you communicate, realizing that everybody is not in the conversation in your head. So sometimes when you say stuff outside, outside and in the conversation, people receive it differently. So sometimes it means taking a step back, reorganizing what your intention is, and just considering that you don't know what the person is dealing with in that day or dealing with in that moment that would make them feel like they're being disrespected. But then on the other side, if you are the individual that's always questioning, am I tripping? You have to also think about how many times have you given a pass or allowed certain things to kind of exist that now is mounted up, and now you're starting to feel some type of way and you don't know how to really label what that feeling is that is some type of way. You just know it's some unrest for you. So then now when it mounts up and has snowballed into a bigger ball, you question yourself and saying, okay, I must be tripping because this always happens to me, or someone is always saying this to me. And when you begin to use always and never and like those definitive words, you have to look at the common denominator. And the common denominator is sometimes you. And with it being you have to begin to say, okay, what am I doing to attract this conversation? Or what can I do differently so that people can understand what my intention is, so that they don't feel disrespected in any particular way? And so Shirley added, yes, I think it's so very important to be sure what each person is saying. I often find myself saying, I think I hear you saying this, to be sure what the person is saying. Absolutely. So before, which also gives you time to really think about what your response is, to be very thoughtful, careful, and loving. When someone says something, make sure that you know exactly what they're asking, as opposed to what you thought you heard or what you think you're hearing. Because by restating the question, it not only gives you additional time to think about your reaction or response, but it also makes sure that you're on the same lane, same plate, you at the same table, having the same dinner, having the same conversation, versus sometimes if you just react without getting the clarity that's needed, you end up being impulsive and end up saying things that you really wouldn't want to say. So you want to be mindful of those different things. So with that, I guess I will wind us down on an early Friday night. Thank you so much, Miss Shirley. Thank you so much, Ms. Ronnie. So again, make sure your relationships that you have, it's communication really is the thread in all relationships and all things working well. But sometimes we start with a conversation in our head and think that the person was in our head too. So they're at the same page in the book that we are, and they are oftentimes in a different book, a different page because of whatever else they're managing. And so, in them trying to manage their life and be present to you, they might be looking at social media. They might be thinking about how I'm going to manage my finances and everything else. It's just always you just always got to be mindful that everybody is not hearing and listening the same way that you do. So the one thing that I will leave you guys with is an acronym that I often use in regards to building communication between people when it's broken. And I use the acronym of HUG. And of course, hugs are always good for people in general, but we want to make sure you hear. You hear for understanding, you hear for content, you hear for the purpose and intention of the relationship, of the conversation. The U being for understanding. You want to make sure you understand what is being said, as we were just saying, making sure you restate the question, restate what it is that you heard. But not only understanding, I also like to reflect it to understanding. Not only are you understanding what the person is saying, are you understanding how it impacts you or what is being said being facts versus, like a false narrative. And then the G of the HUG, being able to give complimentary as well as hard feedback, but in the essence of love. Because in all things, when we end the conversation, even the hard conversations, the one that was very, very difficult, you have to really think about, okay, was I able to give as well as to receive in this exchange? Was I present and hearing to understand as well as understand what was being said to me? And can I give and receive in the absence of aggression, but all in love? And hopefully if you use that hug analogy, hug theory, thank you, Miss Ruth, that you will begin to reframe how it is that you interact with others and be able to perform and have much more gratifying relationships. So again, thank you. We are here every Friday for Sip and Chat with Relationship Flow at 8 p.m. So we thank you all on this Friday night in June for rocking it out with us on a pre-Juneteenth celebration for most. We talked about that in our current events. If you want to, grab the beginning of this video if you didn't catch it, just to get our perspective. Of course, there's probably many perspectives. And we look forward to seeing you next week. So in the meanwhile, stay safe and stay well. Look forward to seeing you soon. Mary May from Relationship Flow. Take care, everyone. Be safe.